Hey guys, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Kaleidospoke. It's myself, Richie Rick, alongside Mr. Aaron. Hello, Aaron.
Yes, my bro. How you doing, man? How's everything going?
I'm good. Cannot complain, you know. Life is beautiful.
It is. And it looks like we're getting closer and closer to escaping the house, you know. That lockdown is suddenly, it's like almost easing, almost there. I can feel it.
Yeah. I think everyone's pretty much come to that conclusion and, you know, don't care anymore. Like, everyone's out. There's no social distancing. Sorry to say. So yeah, I mean, again, another fantastic episode. If you haven't checked us out on Instagram, be sure to find us there on Kaleidospoke That's our handle. And yeah, I hope you've been enjoying all the previous shows. And yeah, just want to say thank you. Today we have another good one. We are talking about a few different things. Some things that are dear to our heart, but some things that are really sort of revolutionary that's going on at the moment. So yeah, all interesting stuff. I think the first one that we'll touch on is this recent decision by the UK sort of courts to consider or to interpret or to force previously known gig workers that were, you know, driving for Uber as permanent employees. Now, this has been going on back and forth for a good amount of time now. And, you know, Uber's appealed many times. And then it looks like it's come to the crunch. And so this is kind of an interesting consideration, an interesting decision from the UK government, because, you know, this new gig economy kind of craze and sort of movement has been going on strong for a good amount of years, and many have prospered from it because it's kind of opened the sort of gateways and opened the doors for many workers to be, you know, just work independently. And so this is an interesting case where now, you know, Uber workers who can switch on and switch off when they like are being considered as permanent employees. Now, Aaron, I know you're probably kind of close to this, and you might have a few things to say. So I'll be interested to kind of hear your views as to how you think this has kind of gone down.
So, like, this is a super interesting kind of landmark for Uber and the gig economy in general. So, like you said, Uber have been in the courts pretty much for the last, 6-7 years over a number of different issues, you know, whether or not their license is valid, whether or not, you know, their workers should be treated with, you know, the same rights as an employee. So, you know, Uber in and out, you know, kind of sporadically we'll see in our headlines, Uber in courts and decision made. And part of it is because the black taxi lobby, of course, you know, Uber has been disruptive for them and the private hire industry as a whole. So, you know, these guys with political sway, they've almost like forced a kind of litigation upon Uber. And the latest round of this is probably like the most important round, where now, after numerous appeals, Uber found themselves in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court have denied their kind of motion to appeal against, you know, giving their employees guaranteeing them minimum wage, number 2, holiday pay, number 3, contributions to pensions. So Uber have lost. At this point, Uber have lost, and they've had to concede this to their workers. And I mean, this is pretty huge. because I think currently in the UK there's like 70,000 Uber drivers, so this is huge. Like the idea that now they're going to receive a holiday pay, which is actually a bi-weekly payment of like 12.5% of everything they've earned. So so they're going to have to factor that in, and then contribute to a pension. They're going to have to factor that in. And to be fair, in the last couple of years, Uber have developed like a life insurance policy for their drivers. So I've been working with Uber for like the past 6, maybe close to 7 years. So, this is something that's directly affecting me. And it's really quite interesting because, the whole deal with Uber is that, you log on, you take jobs, you pass over part of the commission, and then you go your own way, and everyone is dominion to themselves. And now this is changing. It definitely kind of questions, what's the future for Uber? Now, the future, I mean, this ruling has like an implication across all gig economy. So it's not just Uber now, like, because now this sets precedent for anybody who's in the kind of like gig economy. And the private hire industry in its entirety is a gig economy. Like every single operator in the private hire industry works on this basis. So given that Uber's already kind of eaten up a lot of the market share in the private hire industry, how do like the Addison Lees or the GLHs, how do they kind of like guarantee their workers these things, which their workers could bring litigation upon them at any point if they don't deliver? How are they going to be able to do that and survive? It's a big question. And initially this looks like a massive L for Uber. It does look like that initially, and it is an L. But actually, if the likes of Addison Lee, GLH, Tomato Cars, all these kind of smaller private hire firms are unable to survive this, then it kind of clears the way for more kind of market share for Uber in a way. So it's going to be super interesting. Now, another interesting thing is that this doesn't apply to like Uber Eats riders. This only applies to the drivers, which is again quite interesting, because then it's like, like Deliveroo operate on a gig economy, but maybe Deliveroo might be saved from this if this doesn't apply to Uber Eats drivers.
I don't get that.
Yeah,
I don't get how it applies to taxi or cab drivers, but not food delivery. I honestly don't. I feel that's a bit like I don't know why, but I feel like there's a dissonance there.
Well, interestingly, like when this case was brought and won, because this case was won about a month ago. When it was brought and won, it was brought by a small number of Uber drivers, and actually the ruling only applied to them initially. So this was literally for these Uber drivers, which would then roll out upon the rest of the Uber drivers. So maybe this is could be now precedent for like Uber riders or Uber, people that operate on Uber Eats to then bring forth a similar lawsuit. So, although it doesn't apply to them currently, there's every chance that there'll be a kind of organized group of your delivery Uber Eats drivers kind of coming together and going again at Uber in the courts. So, it's possible, man.
I mean, yeah, but and then so are you saying that perhaps the likes of Addison Lee and other sort of cab operators could potentially come under this same precedence at some point when they're workers bring it forth to the courts, because now there's a precedent set, or does this automatically conclude them into this same bracket of having to pay or classify their workers as employees?
Well, I think the situation is that if they don't automatically kind of implement these things, then they're going to find themselves in the courts pretty soon, which is a lot more costly. So, I think, this applies across the industry, and like I said before, it doesn't simply apply to just the private hire industry. This is like the gig economy. This sets precedent for the gig economy as a whole. So, I mean, all these guys are going to have to start thinking about, dude, is this worth continuing? Especially if you've got a behemoth like Uber as your competition, that's, public company, got tons of shareholders, like they could raise money at a drop of a hat. It's the likes of Addison Lee, which is quite a big company, but the likes of Addison Lee or smaller, similar companies, they really need to start thinking like, is this still a feasible business for them?
Yeah, I mean, they'll either have to pass on the costs or they can suck up the costs. I think one of the crazy things about Uber is that they have a lot of efficiencies because they're a global platform. So that, I think their efficiency should be a lot higher than perhaps Addison Lee, purely because they're a technology-led company. But yeah, I know it's going to be uber interesting. Did you get that? Uber interesting. Did you get It's going to be uber interesting to see, because I don't know if it's the right choice. Like, in my mind, I'm not sure if it was the right choice, right decision. Because I feel like sort of like quite like a free market type person, right? And I don't know if this really rings true to that, because you have the likes of people who are in the gig economy, the digital gig economy, right? Yeah. Who are doing graphics design or content writing, and they're doing it from their home. I'm trying to just think, what makes this so different? Is it because they have so much dependence on Uber or on one platform, or what? I'm trying to like discern how these guys that are working from their desk are different to the guys who are working in the car.
Well, I think it's measurable, the amount of hours that they work. Do you know what I mean? Like, so as a driver, you could see somebody who's worked 80 hours a week, and somebody who's worked 80 hours a week effectively could be deemed as somebody who's like a full-time employee.
Yes, and the fact actually that they don't set their own rates. I think that was a key point.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
exactly.
If I'm a graphics designer, I could say, look, this is what I charge. But like, if you're working for Uber on the platform, it's dictated to you. I think that was a key point. I believe.
No, exactly. I mean, I'm similar to you, man. Like, I'm a kind of free market guy. I like to believe that as a supplier to Uber, I've agreed to the terms that I'm working on under. I've agreed. They've offered. I've accepted. It's a contract. And I have the freedom to work when I want. It's not like I'm, subjected to some hours, or like there's a particular jurisdiction that I have. So in that sense, both parties are satisfied. As I said to you before, I've been working with them for years now, and I've never had a problem. But my whole entire adult life, I've been self-employed, so I've never expected to get holiday pay or sick pay or pensions or any of that. All of that was always going to be under my own terms. But this is a change. This is a game changer. It's like and currently Uber drivers still can work at their own convenience. It's not like, okay, we're giving you these things, but that means now, since that we have some type of like contract, or since you're entitled to these employee rights, you need to spend a certain amount of time on our platform. No, that's not happening. They've explicitly said you can continue working as you were. So it will be interesting to see how the future of Uber pans out. And I think I was saying this to you before. We see Uber as quite a new company, but actually it's not. It's probably been around for like the last 12 to 15 years. Don't quote me on that, but it's close. It's close. In London, it's definitely been here for. It's definitely been here in London for at least 8 years. So it's there's a possibility, although I don't think this is going to happen. There's a possibility that this could be the failure of the company, and
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen. But the reason I bring it up is because it's not as new as it once was. They already have not turned a profit. Do you know what I mean? And that was with their workers kind of working on this kind of gig deal. So now that they're going to have to, like basically subsidize these workers with all these kind of employee rights. We've got to see how that lack of profit plays out. It doesn't look like they're going to make more money out of this. And it also looks as if there's going to be a price increase.
Yeah. That's it. Like when the costs increase, you have to pass that cost on to the end consumer ultimately, unless you're going to try to cut workers or be a bit more efficient. So, but generally it gets passed down to the consumers, which is, I guess people will still be willing to pay. They'll, Uber's been such a key infrastructural, I guess, part of the economy, especially last year as well. Trying to, keep people going, mobile all the time when, especially like our NHS workers, when during lockdown, all that kind of stuff. So they were definitely kind of key to that. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think I'll be interested to see how the Uber riders and the Deliveroos come to it. I mean, I think they've got a similar thing. There was a similar law that was passed in California for Uber, but that's only one state out of was it 52? So if this continues, then yes, their cost structure is gonna go up, and Uber's had to exit out of a lot of different other business parts. Just because it's sucking up too much money. And I think now that it sounds like, they are focusing more on just the Uber and the Uber Eats as core pieces of the business. Whereas before they was looking at self-driving cars and autonomy to kind of come in at like 2023 and like, hey, all the drivers can take a hike because we're on the road.
Well, you know what? It's interesting that you bring that up because actually, even as a supplier to Uber, I think about, okay, how do Uber get out of this situation? I'll ask you, but I'll put forth that I think this could bring an age where Uber use their kind of like self-driving cars even quicker, because actually that is the next time, or that is their only, at this point, it looks like that's their only opportunity to turn profit. Like if they can actually get their self-driving cars on the road and, alleviate this whole, drivers' rights and all this stuff, bring down the costs for passengers and the public, and, kind of get this self-driving initiative out there. I think this actually, if I'm being truly honest, I think this is bringing that forward. I'm not saying that it's going to come. I'm not saying that it's going to come next year, but I do anticipate that the urgency for self-driving vehicles for Uber is now becoming, more great, I think. So yeah, it's like this seems like a win, and it is a win for drivers. It's a win for drivers. I think it's going to be a win for all the companies that are, well, not for the companies, but for the people that are in the gig economy and potentially not getting exactly what they feel they deserve. But I think for Uber, they're a huge company, man, and I think the idea that this is like a new age where people can work when they want and still get the benefits of being a full-time employee. I can't see that lasting for a very, very long time. Maybe another 5 years, but I can't see that being a thing where that's the new way to go. Like that's the new job for life kind of deal. I can't see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for self-driving cars, it's going to take a while and a lot of governments to kind of come to terms with that. There's a lot of legislation around that, so that's going to be the bottleneck for it. I think it feels like the technology is almost there anyway. Yeah, so Uber had their own like internal sort of incubator or department that was looking at self-driving cars or autonomous vehicles, but they sold that. I think it was like last year. So there'd probably be a case of do they buy or license that technology as and when it's ready in the States, as and when they sort of start, allowing self-driving cars to be on the road.
Yep.
But definitely that is the key way for them to become profitable, a lot greater than what they are today.
So I don't know if you know this, but who did they sell that particular arm to? Could they have sold it to one of their subsidiaries?
No. They sold it to, so they spun it off, and there was another company who's working on a similar technology, and I think they kind of like merged the two. They still got a stake in it, but I think they've taken it off their sort of their main cost structure. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, again, it's interesting. I mean, what other gig economies are going to be affected by this, do you think?
I don't know. So I guess the main ones are deliveries, and then you've got the digital gig economy. So it's strange because I think one of the key points was I mentioned earlier is like, other gigs can set their own rates, not get their rates set to them. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting. Maybe other taxi companies come with their own model where drivers can dictate their rates, and that will then get around this, and that may come, that model. I think there might be that's an interesting test bed for the UK, where to get around this kind of thing. But yeah, no, I don't know where else will be impacted as such. I just know that there's a lot of actual Uber-like companies around the world now. So yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
All right, cool. Well, speaking about gig economy, there's also another economy that is blowing up, and that. Thank you for that. Yeah. and that's the NFT world, and I think you probably heard about this by now if you haven't, but let's break it down a little bit. So NFT stands for non-fungible tokens, and they're kind of digital assets that are sort of cryptographically unique. So they're non-fungible, which means they're unique, and they're a lot of them, generally like 90% of them are on Ethereum, which is like a cryptocurrency blockchain technology. And so, yeah, this space has absolutely been blowing up to the point where one sort of JPEG PNG file, whatever it was, sold recently by a very traditional auctioneer by the name of Christie's, art auctioneer, sold this piece of art, which is digital, purely like 100% digital, for $69 million. Shut the front door. Good night.
At this point, I wish I had like a button that can do like the oh man, 69 M's, Oh my goodness.
Yep. I know.
Did you know that Christie's has been going on for 200 years?
Yep, 225 years, yeah.
Crazy. You got this this kind of like ultra old, ultra traditional, entrenched in history, saying that this JPEG here it's worth 69 M's. 69.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's crazy. I think it's like the third highest selling piece of all time or something like that. Like,
Wow.
it's mad. It's mad. Or Beeple, the guy who, you know, created this NFT, is like the third richest artist
Living.
from living artist from one sale or something like that.
Yes. Yes. Crazy. And, you know, this space is super, super hot. Like, the world is talking about it. It's getting everybody involved and introducing the world to cryptocurrencies. And it's just a big wave, which is just, I don't know, it's a craze right now. But the great thing about it is that it enables creators to capitalize on their own terms, and get their own, you know, their own creativity out there with zero middleman. Well, there is a middleman, there's a marketplace, but ultimately they have a high stake in it. And you know, the way these contracts, because these digital pieces of art are minted onto this Ethereum platform, that means that they're immutable, they can never be changed, they're non-fungible, they're unique. And you know, this represents a piece of code that has this sort of metadata within it. But what's good is that within this contract that they sell, that's like part of this whole package of this, you know, piece of art, you know, the creator can get royalties. So ongoing sales can be passed on to the original artist. And so there's a whole heap of upside for these artists to create art and then get a piece of the pie when it goes up. And you've had countless. I mean, I can only imagine how many sort of graphics designers, artists that this has kind of made millionaires in a very short period of time. Because, okay, you might sell it for, you know, $100 or $1,000 first, but when that starts going up to hundreds of thousands and you're getting like 10% of it, and you've made multiple pieces, you know, the stakes are right. You know, stakes are getting high pretty quickly. So it's a crazy time, and I think it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree, man. It's like super exciting. And I remember when I first came across it, you know, it was back in not that far, not that long ago, but it was back in maybe like late November, early December. And someone in a group that I was in, they'd bought something called a hash mask. And you know, it was like, okay, what is this hash mask? I said, oh, it's an NFT. And I'm looking at, okay, you do the whole due diligence of going through YouTube. What's an NFT? And, you know, you do all of that and you figure out, okay, this is some stuff. But then once you come across the idea that, wow, like this NFT space it's not limited to digital art. There's some other things you can we'll get to in a sec, but like this is literally what we're looking at is looking at the art space or the art world being digitized, you know, and it was the minute I came across and fully understood what was going on, my mind was blown. Do you like Rich remembers, like I would be like NFT daily, just talking about NFTs. NFTs are the way forward. NFTs are life, and you know, like so much has happened. It's super interesting, and actually on our Instagram, we've got like even in our story highlights, we've got like an NFT section where, you know, we featured some of the artists that have cool stuff like made by Studio JQ. You know, Ted's Little Dream. We've featured a number of artists because actually this space is super interesting. That is so interesting. And you know, like I said before, it's not limited to digital art and collectibles. You know, you can, a lot of music artists have, you know, sold their albums as NFTs. There's been tweets sold as NFTs. You can effectively make anything an NFT. It's not limited by anything, you know. So, but it's a unique thing that cannot be changed. It's I always struggle with this word, interoperable, something like that.
Yeah, you got it. That's what.
Yeah. That's the one. So this thing is here, and you know, is so interesting because actually there there was always a kind of writing on the wall for NFTs, and you would have probably seen it if you was a gamer. So when you think about like games like Fortnite being a very obvious one, and you could there's in-game purchases, right? So you get the game for free. But if you want the skins, you pay however much you pay, so that when you're rolling with your friends in Fortnite, you've got your little skin going on, you've got your thing going on. And this is almost like the hypothetical NFT. And we see in some games now that there are like actual NFTs. I think Counter-Strike you could make your own NFT and then use it in the game. And even now there's discussions about things that you can take cross-platform. So you could create something for your avatar or whatever it is, as an NFT on the Ethereum blockchain, and then you can have that in Fortnite, and then you can have that in Counter-Strike, and then you can have that in, I don't know, you could have it in Call of Duty, and you can take this cross-platform, cross-game. So there's all these possibilities with NFTs, and this is why it's so exciting. And I think Beeple, who is the guy behind this infamous £69 million NFT
Dollars.
You sure? Because I think it's pounds. I think it's pounds because Christie's is a UK thing. Dollars?
It's dollars, bro. Yeah.
All right, dollars. But yeah, like these numbers like validate this thing. They kind of like put this thing on the map, and I don't think they're going away. And a quick history about NFTs. I mean, they've been going for a little bit. I think it started with CryptoKitties, which was back in when we first got in, which is 2017. And like I think it even like it crashed the Ethereum blockchain. It did all sorts of stuff, and it was like this new wave. And as the bear market came, everybody forgot. Everybody stopped caring about that stuff. But now it's almost come back with a vengeance. And the guys at Dapper Labs who are behind CryptoKitties, now they've created NBA Top Shots, which you can actually buy with money, fiat, credit cards, debit cards, so you're not limited to being in the cryptocurrency world. Now you can buy these things with money, fiat. However, it's still working on like the blockchain in which they use, which is Flow. So it's still pretty much under the hood. It's all cryptocurrency. So this is not only a great shine to cryptocurrency, but these NFTs and the Ethereum blockchain, oh man, like it makes me excited. I've been excited, and although I see crazy stuff all the time with this stuff, and there has been crazy stuff. There's been a ton of crazy stuff. Yeah, I mean, CryptoPunks is one of the crazy things. There's a ton of crazy stuff that makes you think, nah, this can't be real. I am super excited about NFTs. Super, extremely bullish. Extremely.
Shill. But no, I think there's another one that's interesting. Like people are actually buying digital real estate, right? Like I think previously we spoke about the metaverse, and I like these sort of digital cities, towns. It's almost Sims, like Sims 2000. Do you remember Sims? Right.
Yes.
Sims 2000, and you have this like house, and you go to work and all that kind of stuff. People are into that. That's serious. That was a serious kind of like that's a serious following. So yeah. So long story short, people actually buying plots of land in. There's a game I think by Decentraland, and then there's a city called Genesis City, and people are buying like 1,100 square foot, pieces of land for like 200 grand. And I think there's like I think in January a plot of land went for like $2,000, and then 2 months later it's like $175. Like this is just pixels in this game, which is another mind-blowing thing.
Mad.
Kind of is I almost understand this whole concept of skins and, you know, kids who are playing, say kids, even adults, but, you know, people who are playing games and they want to like look good in their new uniform, so they want a unique skin for their gun or whatever, or you know, but then for people to buy land in this game with big money like that is crazy. But then again, even the skins, that some of the skins are actually like big money as well.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know what it really makes me think of? It really makes me think of Ready Player One, and we've spoken about it before. It makes me think of, all right, how do these things actually have a true value? Because, you know, I understand a lot of value is consensus, and, you know, like if I say it's £1 and you say it's £1 and it's £1, I get that. But like, there's also, at least in my mind, a concept of true value. Like, how do you use this? How do you use this? And I think, honestly, the way you use all of this is in some type of metaverse, some type of world where it actually counts. Do you know what I mean? Like, so maybe this is the building blocks for a metaverse. You know, like we all are part of this metaverse that we go into, you know, like fast forward 10 years or whatever, 15 years, 20 years, whatever. We're all part of this thing. And, you know, those that bought those plots of land on Decentraland, they own that. That's real. In that metaverse is real. It is their land. That is their land. And the NFTs that you might have, you know, the Beeple NFTs, you know, like they might be shown in some like weird kind of art gallery within this metaverse, you know, and all of this stuff in the metaverse has value, you know, and that and I think potentially the reason why people are putting crazy money towards it now is because it might have even more value in the metaverse. So you know, is so to me, man, like this is super interesting because it makes me just think like where does this end? You know, like this looks like another world is being created. Like where think about it, where you've got 8,500 different currencies you can pay in. It doesn't matter where you are. You can pay if you don't have any Bitcoin, you can have some Ethereum. If you don't have any Ethereum, you can have some Cardano. If you don't have any Cardano, you can have, you know, God knows what, you know. And you're walking around with this digital interchangeable wallet to buy things that are all digital. So yeah, man, it's like to me, it's just like it could, but then, wait, I'm gonna pump the brakes 1 second because I have to do it on my own self when it comes to this subject. What if it's a bubble?
Bubbles, they, you
Burst.
know, bubbles pop, but then they come back again.
Yeah,
you know, I think it could be, it could be a huge effing bubble, and it's gone. Like, you know, like when we spoke last about the great hack, and you know the world could get hacked. You know, if this stuff happens in the metaverse or whatever, or in a digital world, that's an even bigger shock because all that you thought existed doesn't exist.
True.
So that's almost like digital worlds get crushed, and the normal real world that we think that we're in now still is here. So people will then remove themselves or step back from what they thought was real and having that sort of stake in this sort of world, buying land for 200 grand. And if that gets hacked, then, you know, should have just put it under your bed, mate. Your real bed.
Yeah, your actual bed that you sleep on.
You know. And that's the thing with like this decentralized kind of concept, right? Is there isn't a centralized entity which is to be providing insurance or being accountable, etc. Provide those safeguards. It is like cowboy town out there, you know.
It is
no man's land.
It is that, but that's decentralization, you know. It's the same with anything. It's the same with equality. I'm not going to go off on that tangent, but there's a consequence. You know, it's a great concept. The idea of everything being decentralized is a great concept. It's an amazing concept, but there's a consequence. And sometimes these centralized systems, they have security, they have processes, and when you're talking about a decentralized one, you know, you're talking about individuals. You're not talking about a system. You know, so you know it can, it can get, you know, it can get sticky. It can get sticky out there. You got to
Really
be
sticky.
careful. Got to be
Stay
careful.
frosty.
But look. I mean, I think NBA Top Shots are so rare with football. You know, football collectibles. I think it's quite interesting. You know, like it's that is kind of bringing the mainstream into crypto in a weird way. You know, at least
Definitely.
at least into the concept of Ethereum and blockchains. So you know, it's quite interesting. And I didn't know Rio Ferdinand has quite a significant share in Sorare. I had no idea. But yeah, I mean, there's something else I wanted to talk about as well. I mean, with Beeple, there was a drop. So a lot of these digital art platforms, marketplaces, like Nifty Gateway, Maker's Place, Super Rare, Rareable, they do drops. So it's like, you know, whether it be every day or every week, you know, like an artist would come along and do a drop of some of their work, and you know, people have the chance to bid on it, blah blah blah. So people did a drop on Maker's Place, and it was for, I think it was for about 150 or something, a number of his everydays, of his pieces, for $1 each, right? But then what happened? I was enrolled in it. I was like, yes, I want it. Yeah. Didn't win. But then what happened is that so many people kind of came onto the website at the time, it crashed. So then they said, all right, cool. We're just gonna, you know, kind of give this out to, you know, 150 randoms. You know, they're all gonna receive their Beeple drop, you know, and it's going to be picked at random. So these people received their Beeple NFT. They've put in $1 and they've received their Beeple NFT, and you know, instantly it's worth 6 figures. Instantly. So, like, what I'm now seeing, what I'm now anticipating, and I'm still part of, because Nifty Gateway still does these, is like almost like an NFT lottery. It's like, right, you can participate in a drop where the pieces are $1 each, and you know, if you get selected, you've now got this piece of art that's instantly worth 5-6 figures. So you know, I can see this is almost like another type of lottery where, you know, like pretty much if you follow all of the marketplaces, you can apply daily. You know, like, and you don't pay the $1 up front. You pay it once they've, you know, you've won. You know, so it's really quite an interesting kind of take on, you know, NFTs and where they're going.
It's great. I think there's so many use cases for NFTs, and all of these are just bringing in more people into the fold of cryptocurrency and the blockchain world. And I think it's fantastic. You know, you have all these art lovers now that are getting involved and having an appreciation. And because it's visual, you can easily relate to it. Like these pieces of art, that these NFT arts are really quite impressive. Like, you know, graphically, and you know, it's eye candy almost. And so it's also, so it's a way for the artists to express themselves, but it's also a way for, you know, other people to appreciate art in the digital world now, because this is almost what we're living in. You know, we spend most of our time on our phones, more so than watching TV these days. And so this is almost our world, that it's kind of, you know, almost, you know, converging. So yeah, all of these use cases are just bringing in cryptocurrency as being more popular over and over again.
Yeah, yeah, and before we move on to the next thing, it's really quite important. You mentioned convergence, and there's a couple of projects that are looking to do that kind of like, you buy something in the maybe in the fashion world, and then you can then get the actual physical thing of it. You can get the physical item as well. So there's already a ton of like sneakers that are made as NFTs, and then you can receive the sneakers themselves. I mean, I think Luxo is one of the tokens that are, making this happen. So it's really is this stuff is super interesting, man. And yeah, we'll be seeing how this all plays out. And I can just see longevity with NFTs. I can just see it. And again, on our Instagram, we've got like a section for NFTs, but we're super bullish on it. So it's like in our stories, they're always there, and we're always kind of in talking to artists, and it's exciting. It's an exciting landscape.
Definitely. Yeah. So I've yet to sort of buy my first NFT, but I'll look forward to the day I could just drop like 10 ETH on one, just put it on my wall.
Well, I know you're yet to buy one, but I am not yet to buy. I've bought. I'm in. If
You're
anyone wants to buy them, please. I need to sell them. I need money. I'm joking. But no, like, it's interesting, right? Because, at this point I've got like 4 or 5 NFTs, and it's quite interesting because like the artists, you can see their movement, right? You can see their development. So I've got a couple from Josh Pierce, and he's just announced a nifty gateway drop with OGs from esports. The esports team that they play Dota. They play a couple of kind of like professional games, and he's just announced a drop with them. So like as these artists build profile, you can also feel as if like the things that you bought from them, like their NFTs, they're building in value too. So it's you got like you mentioned that you got a ton of people that are artists coming into the space because of NFTs, but you've got the other people like myself, like we're investors. We want to buy something and flip it and put it in something else. So there's like a ton of people interested for a ton of different reasons.
Yeah, but also a lot of the creators are there's musicians, there's artists, there's like models, there's book writers, there's all these other use cases that people are looking to capitalize on because it's a craze, money's there, and it's also quite innovative as well. So a lot of the commercialization of cryptocurrencies feels like it's coming more and more as these what was it, Kings of Leon? They sold their album as an NFT or something like that, or something along those lines. And with that NFT, whoever holds that NFT can get tickets to any of their concerts around the world, front row tickets, something like that. So as long as you hold that NFT, you can go for all their concerts for the rest of your life. I mean, what's that worth? That's worth a lot of money, like to a lot of people. So it's super interesting, like the experiments that are happening right now. All right, so moving on a similar topic to NFTs, we're going to continue the same theme. We're going to talk about just general sort of crypto space at the moment, and where it's at and where it's going. We like to talk about crypto a lot here. I think it's kind of close to our hearts, close to our wallets. And also it's just I think it's a very huge shift that we're going through, and not everyone knows about it, and it's super exciting. That's what makes it very addictive. It makes it very like it's consuming, but it's also so interesting because it's like multivariate. There's lots going on, and so yeah, I mean one other interesting space is DeFi, which stands for decentralized finance. And essentially what that is it's almost acting as a, banks, financial institutions, they are utility, right? They provide credit, they provide you with loans, generally credit, right? You can deposit money and you can get credit. And that's generally how they work. And they do all these other fancy things. But what's happening now is that those basic sort of functionalities are being decentralized. It's being put onto the blockchain, and it's having these smart contracts, which essentially eliminates the middleman as a human, and puts the system in place to kind of replace this mechanism and acts as this mechanism. So we got the likes of, Aave, which is a project, for example, where you can deposit stable coins, and stable coins are basically like they track the dollar. Like there's essentially like a dollar, and so it's supposed to be stable and it tracks the dollar. So therefore, you don't have the volatility and the craziness of, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So you can essentially deposit these stable coins. It's called USDC, for example, and you can get a 6% return on your stablecoin, which is huge, right? Compare that to the maximum rate that your local bank or national bank would give you at this point in time. There's a huge spread between that and this, and it goes to show, and they're able to give these higher rates because of the mechanisms they've put in place, but also the volatility that's at play, and the leverage and all these other sort of smart things that are happening in the background that are being used, or that are using the stable coin or the collateral that you put up. So this decentralized finance is also almost displacing the banking system. I don't think it will, not completely, but it's definitely acting as another vehicle. At the moment, I think I kind of see it like this, right? Like at the beginning, where Bitcoin was created in 2009, it was like the anarchists, like the underground world was like understanding. Also, the gamers, they were like on the edge of this. And then sort of smart contracts came with Ethereum, and you start getting these more like, sort of professional types, but definitely geeky engineers like to understand like how can we work this and introduce this into the real world. And then sort of this sort of wave, the next wave was like DeFi. So you got all these smart sort of balanced coins, these stable coins, and then these kind of Aaves, these marketplaces, and decentralized exchanges where you can swap these tokens. And then you have this NFT wave where, people can buy these real world things or these digital arts and stuff like that. So there's multiple ways that are happening that just bringing in new more and more people into the world of crypto, into the metaverse or the cryptoverse, which is crazy and it's fantastic. But yeah, this decentralized finance is actually really quite a serious thing, because I think, for the people that are risk averse, although cryptocurrency is very still edgy, like, your nan wouldn't necessarily understand it. If you can get a 6% return on your savings that's stable, that's pretty appealing for some people, a lot of people. So, yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm kind of keen to put some stakes in the ground and kind of spread the word about this, really, because I think it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Agreed. And it's quite interesting, the journey of cryptocurrency, even from the time which, we got in 2017, when, like projects seemed to be a lot more obscure than they are now. And, it's interesting about these kind of financial mechanisms that are being used in the DeFi space. So, you mentioned that, you can kind of like stake your stable coins for a 6% return, and that's great, especially versus traditional methods. That's great, but it goes further. It goes, you can stake some of the kind of coins that are volatile. You stake them and get 40% return or 50% return a year. And this has become like super attractive to people that are in crypto, but people that are also concerned about a more kind of more guaranteed way. Guaranteed is strong, but a kind of like a more traditional way of growing your money, and I find it super interesting, man. I mean, I think you've got not just the ability to stake certain coins like Cardano, or I don't know, there's a ton of coins you can stake, but you've also
What does
got the
staking
bit.
mean?
So it effectively means it's the same as pretty much putting your coins in a savings and getting a return for your savings. So it's no different to that. They'll call it staking, but I think what then the mechanism behind staking is that you stake your coins and effectively you've allowed these coins to now be used by people that want to borrow these coins, right? So you're receiving interest on people that are now borrowing these coins for whatever reason, whether it be margin trading or whatever it might be. Um, so the mechanisms behind these kind of decentralized finance products, they've become more sophisticated and they seem to be working.
Yeah.
Of course, there's some that are questionable, and there's a concept called impermanent loss, which is actually permanent loss. That comes a bit more with liquidity pools, and if you're kind of like liquidity pools are quite complex, but if you're
Yeah.
kind of getting involved with that type of stuff, there are risks. It's not completely risk free, but at least the options are now being opened as to how you can use your crypto to earn interest. So
Mm.
it's exciting.
Yeah. I think like it's all this stuff is essentially how the banking system works, as I said, and what
Yep.
you mentioned, right? You can commit and stake your coins, and others can borrow it, at 75% to the dollar or 75 cents to the dollar. So
Hmm.
if you, and then they can leverage that, or they can do whatever they want, which is essentially how the banking system works. If you deposit £10, the bank can borrow out, I think it's 100 to 1, or there's like a very high ratio, or 10 to 1. So they
Hmm.
can borrow out 10 times what they have received as deposit. Um, so it's essentially how the banking system works. It's on the cryptocurrency blockchain, which is just even more exciting. And I think a lot of these sort of decentralized finance projects are very appealing to the financial engineers, like the guys who are pretty smart and that can like make these arbitrage kind of trades between one platform and another, um, and take advantage. Like I think there's a lot of very smart, structured products that are coming out that I think are catering to the financial institutions that like to get involved in these kind of exotic investments, which is
Hmm.
again, it's another channel, another gateway for more entries into the market. Um, so super interesting, and I think the whole Bitcoin wave is just going to continue
Yeah.
to $1 million. Yeah.
Let's hope. So, so are there any projects that kind of catch your eye more than any others, or in a DeFi world?
Yeah, so I think like with DeFi, again, you got to be very careful and selective, right? Because you it, you don't want to be, as I say, it's decentralized, so you don't really have any accountability or insurances per se. Um, so you want to go for legit platforms, and I think the two main legit ones that I'm looking into is Aave, which is AAVE. They're UK based. I think they even got a UK banking license or something like that. They're like proper legit, and I think therefore I would say relatively safe, and also provide a good return. As you say, some of these returns they're 6%, but some can be 30% if you go into a specific pool of a specific coin. Then the other one is BlockFi. BlockFi, I think, is an American. It's owned by, I think, Gemini, which is a big exchange that the Winklevoss twins own. Who, I don't know if anyone's watched that Facebook film, but they were like the twins who didn't quite get Facebook, but was a part of it, that kind of stuff. And so that's another one who they also provide like nearly 6% on your Bitcoin. So that's even as appealing as well. Yeah, those are the two I'll say are worth looking at. What about you?
I mean, there's a ton, man. I mean, I think when I initially got back involved with crypto, I think I was pretty bullish on synthetics. I think they got a couple of mechanisms that are quite interesting. But the staking on synthetics is quite complicated. I can't lie. But as a whole, there's a few DeFi projects that I like. I liked the idea that Binance decided to kind of like create their own chain, and then a ton of like projects off of that chain. I don't want to show my back. Yes, I do. By Venus. But yeah, it's like there's just a ton. There's a ton of DeFi projects that are really interesting. But I think one of the projects that the crypto world has a really, really, really they've a really focused eye on is Cardano. And Cardano has always been a project that has had all these edit that has had all these kind of eyes on them, because actually what they're trying to achieve is so vast, and it applies to decentralized finance too. Like it's everywhere. So they've been running their staking program, I think, since I think late 2020. They've been running their staking program, and the guy behind it is well revered in the sector. So he's kind of the guy. But even upcoming, like there's so many things happening in crypto, man. There's so many things, whether it be DeFi, NFTs, layer 2 solutions to Ethereum, like there's a ton of stuff happening, and like it just seems like to not be involved would be a mistake. That's the mistake. Whether or not you get the right coin or whatever, to not be involved is a mistake. Like don't. Yeah. Like I talk to people daily, people that I love and know, and they say, "Yeah, I really need to get into Bitcoin," but they're not serious. And I've been talking to them since 2017. And the one thing is, the reason why partly I'm in this thing is because I don't want to be one of the ones that get left behind when everything switches. If everything switches, like I want to be like, I've had stake in this for a minute. Even now, as I speak to people, I can tell the people that are new to this, and the people that are like just jumped on it today, because the things that they're saying is the things that I was saying 3 years ago or 4 years ago. Like you can tell, and I appreciate like that being part of this for this amount of time has kind of given me a perspective that's like, okay, well, I can like take this with a pinch of salt. Hella bullish on this. No, that's a no-go. That's a scam. Like I can decipher. I believe I can decipher quite a few of these.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, this space is ever growing, and I think if you're not, as you kind of mentioned, if you're not in it, then you're kind of short it, right? You don't want to be missing the boat. I mean, for example, in the DeFi, there's a metric called total value locked up, or total value locked, TVL, and if you look at those numbers in the charts, it's gone sort of crazy. So I think this time last year it was like 650 million locked up, right? So this is the amount of money that people have put into these or staked essentially, or into these cryptocurrency platforms, and making it work. They're essentially making their money work, and that's what this does, right? Cryptocurrency is making your money work harder for you. Okay, it comes with more risk, but with risk, there's been great reward for those that have been in it for a while. And so, so that it was 650 last year, 650 million, and now it's 45 billion. So that's a huge multiple. And I guess, like, if you look at that, you kind of, it, you should definitely pay attention.
Well, it's hard to ignore, right?
It's hard to ignore.
And this is why institutions are in it now, because it's like,
Yeah,
you can't look at these numbers and just be like, no, it's a fad. You look at these numbers and be like, actually, even if this is a fad, it's super expensive. Like how can we be like, that's more than what, that's pretty much 90x. What other investments do that? What other markets are doing this?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It presents a great opportunity to the individual and to the institutions.
I saw a really kind of funny sort of thing that got shared in a group that I was in, and it had sort of news headlines from, like, I think 2000 or a good few years ago, maybe at the beginning of Bitcoin, and it was saying, like, Morgan Stanley said Bitcoin's real value is 0, or it could be 0. JP Morgan saying, Bitcoin is a fraud and it blow up. Goldman Sachs saying, 5 reasons why not to invest in Bitcoin. Visa CEO saying we won't process transactions in Bitcoin because it's not a payment system. And then now, this year or last year's sort of headlines, it's like, JP Morgan says, investors could make Bitcoin 1% of portfolios. Goldman Sachs restarts cryptocurrency desk. Visa is working to enable Bitcoin purchases. Like, the narrative, and people have just done a whole 180, which goes to show this is something that's taken, the momentum's too strong.
Yeah,
the momentum's too strong.
This is at the point where this is a train. The brakes have been cut. The only way that you could potentially stop this train is to have another train that's going to crash into it. And to build that train at this point is are you willing to build a $2 trillion train to crash his train so that everything goes to nothing? I don't think so. It's better to get on the train. Yeah, it's probably better to get on the train. And yeah, man, I'm on the train. I'm on the train. Every day it's when's the new moon? What's the new moon? Looking into the things in 2017 that was the blips in 2017, like the ICOs. They've come back. They've made a resurgence. It's like, okay, like all these things. But now it just seems like the projects seem to be a bit more tight. The ones that are scams are a bit more obvious. It's super exciting because, in many cases you can see the shit from the gold. It's in many cases, not all cases, but many cases you can see this, and actually it becomes more exciting when you have that ability, because the things that are gold are like super gold. You're like, wow, like, this thing here, like I put like a little 1 ETH in this. Oh my God, like this could be the next thing. And, before the podcast, we was talking about Ethereum. And it's funny because, coming back into this thing, I read the Bitcoin Standard, which is a great book. And I've recommended it a million times. A great book because it doesn't only talk about Bitcoin, it talks about the history of money and the importance of money and, just general value trading. And, coming back into this thing, I was like, like this is Bitcoin and everything else is shitcoin, Bitcoin over everything. And, everything else is just noise. and now Ethereum, mainly because NFTs turned me onto Ethereum, if I'm honest. And obviously I knew it was there, but NFTs validated Ethereum for me in the real world. And it's made me think that, man, Bitcoin and Ethereum, you have these two things. If you have enough of both of these things, and I'm not necessarily saying you have to have one of these things, like one Bitcoin or one Ethereum, but if the more of this you get in the future, I honestly think that this is, like the gold and the platinum and the valuable resource with high value, that will separate the rich from the poor, and I think this is a great opportunity to get some of that.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. So on that note, everyone, buy a bag, hodl, and live a happy life.